Hi, Leanne Donahue-Tamplin here. Today I'm interviewing Felicity Cook. Felicity is a survivor of domestic violence, and she's recently had her face put up on the side of a building in the Sydney CBD as a representative of the new face of domestic violence. She's a passionate advocate for survivors and runs her own social movement campaign called Onward and Upward, which is about helping survivors of domestic violence continue to work towards their goals. She's also a really creative person and runs her own cake decorating business. This is the second half of my interview with Felicity. The first half is on an earlier podcast. Hope you enjoy this interview, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Strength, definitely. It was because people, will say, well, how did you, what made you leave? And there was no one incident that made me walk away. But it was an amalgamation of things. Basically, that inner voice, that gut instinct, started to get stronger. And like I said, it's been a long time, so I don't really remember all the details. I don't remember exactly. There was a moment when I realised that I had to. But I know that it started to form. I'd known for a long time that I couldn't stay, and I think I always knew that I would never be there forever. I always knew that this is not going to be the rest of my life, but I wasn't done at the same time. And that's such a hard concept for people to understand. I wasn't done. I had to stick it out because there was something I was learning, whatever, there was a reason for that. But I know that it started to grow. I started to get that strength back in, that gut feeling that voice started to say, no, this is not okay. You're going to have to go. It's time to go. It's time to go. And so it started to build. And it got stronger, and it started to get stronger than his voice. And as I said, this is where I think that strength kind of ticks over into that stubbornness, because I was also very stubborn. It was no, I'm not putting up with this. Like, you can say all you want, and I'll put the face on in front of you, and I'll say, yeah, I believe what you're saying, and sure, I'm never going to go, and this is all right, and da-da-da, you're fine, I don't blame you, and blah, 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 all that sort of thing. But in the background, my brain's going, no, I'm not doing it. I'm just not doing it. But I wasn't ready to go anyway. So I reached a point, finally, we went, okay. And then the day that I left, it potentially was a fluke that I actually left that day. If she hadn't answered her phone, because I sort of called her and I said, I'm moving out. And she said, I'll see you in half an hour. And she dropped whatever she's doing and she raced to me. If she hadn't answered the phone, I might not have actually left that day. It's hard to know. I might have tried. It would have been harder because I had to move stuff out and stuff like that. But then again, it might have just been a different day. But she did do that, and she came down and she helped me pack up my stuff. And the funny thing is I guess where that strength comes in is that once I'd made that decision, he couldn't reverse it.
Yes.
Whereas he'd always been able to reverse it. Every other time I'd run out the door saying I'm leaving and run down the street, we'd have a screaming fight down the street or whatever. He always managed to coax me back. But when the decision was finally made, and in my heart and in my gut, and I went, that's it, I'm going. And I said, I said to him, I'm leaving. And he turned on everything, turns on the waterworks, puts on sad songs, throws things around about how horrible and how sad he is and he loves me and he doesn't want me to go and blah, 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 blah. And he does this whole heartbroken boyfriend thing. But something had switched off in me. And that's why I didn't care anymore. It was done. The decision was made. I was going to be going, and he could faff around all he wanted, but I was going to be getting out the door. And for the number of years after that, because I tried, I said, it's very hard to shake. They can be very hard to shake. Walking out the door does not mean that it's over, okay?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you just leave? Well, it doesn't work like that. You don't just walk out and never see them again. Yeah. He tracked me down and found out where I was living. He would turn up. He was stalking. He was calling. He was climbing onto my balcony trying to get in my door. He was blah, 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 all this sort of thing. I tried for a couple of years, I tried to sort of placate him, tried to sort of maintain some form of a relationship, sort of a friendship. But every time I saw him, even after then, if I went to see him, I learned things like I never took anything in with me, nothing that he could grab to make me stay or that he could take to break or anything like that. And as always, I would go in, I would always know where the door was. There was always a part of me goes, if you're going to be walking out the door again, I look back at it and go, wow, you're an idiot. Like you could have done anything to that. Anyway, but this is how I was dealing with him, because he was very, very hard to shake, was that I had to keep him thinking that things were cool. So
can I just clarify? Are you saying because there was a fear about the repercussions of that? So do you think it was I had to help him keep thinking things were okay, because his reaction, if he thought it was really, really over, might have been
Probably a
something I
little bit
couldn't
of that,
control?
but also because there was probably still a little bit of, he probably still had his claws in a little bit. Like there
Yeah.
was a,
You
you know,
cared as well.
you go into a relationship with someone. This is something else that I, when I talk about, my experience and stuff, when I talk about what people, like, the understanding people have of what domestic violence is. If you went on a date with someone and on that date they punched you in the stomach, well, what are you going to do? A, you're either going to smack them back,
Yeah.
or B, you're probably going to call the police. But the most important thing is you're never going to see them again. If you went on a date with someone and they hit you, you will never see them again. There's no way you're going to go on a second date with them. But when you're in a relationship that becomes violent, it doesn't work like that. It's not like I went in and I met him and he smacked me and that was it. It is a slow process. It is a testing of boundaries. It is a breaking down of defenses and all those sorts of things. So you actually start the relationship because you care about someone, because you think that you're going to make a life together, that there is something there. There was obviously a mutual attraction. You both got probably similar goals, or you're working towards something together. But there is a reason why that relationship has started. It just happens to deteriorate somewhere down the track. And it can start from day one, but you won't notice it straight away, because, again, you would walk away. And they do know that. They know that you're going to walk away. So it is a slow thing. So there was caring there. I did, in the way that you can at 19, and you've met an older man and you've moved out of home. I did love him. He had always from day one spoken of these, goals that he had for us, that we were going to build this wonderful world and we were working towards this great life together, and that everything was for us and for the family we would one day have, and all those sorts of things. And you do believe that because you're in a relationship, you care about someone. He says that he loves you. He says that he cares about you. You're living with them. It's what you see all day, every day. You're in a domestic situation with him. There was that little bit that went, is he really going to get the things that he's always said he's going to get? Is he going to reach those things? Did I miss out on it possibly having changed? Is that really, because he became a different person when we were not together. He kind of went back to just being that kind of cool dude that I'd met to start with. He had all these, great ideas and all these, he was very suave, charming man. He was a horrible person, but he was very charming. People think he really, all that. So I think it was a bit of that. And there was also that, when I was in his presence afterwards, I was always making sure that I was maintaining calmness, because at that point I knew what would trigger him. But, and so there was always a matter of, like seeing him, visits were always short. As I said, I always kept, close to the door, always knew my way out, that sort of thing. If it looked like he was going to get angry, I was gone. So I think it was a bit of both of those. And I would just happen, and for me, it seemed to be it was a gradual process to sort of slow that out and see him less and less and less and less and less until it kind of tailed off. As I said, he's never completely gone. He would pop up every year or two or something like that, just kind of into the blue. So he's very good like that.
But lucky you didn't have children. For a lot of women, that just makes it so difficult, because that stuff continues whilst they're having to have drop off and pick up, and they can't actually get them out.
And I nearly did. I mean, I did find myself pregnant to him early on. I was 19. I knew the moment I found out, I knew that it wasn't an option for it to continue. Again, there was that, that was where my gut went, this is not right. I knew straight away that by having a child with this man, I would be linked to him for the rest of my life, however long that might be. And it meant that my child would be connected to this very angry, abusive man as well. So, and it was a decision that, before I had met him, I never thought that I would make such a, I thought abortion was wrong. I was like, I'd never do such a thing. But in that moment, and this is where, domestic violence is a very different thing. When you're in a violent relationship, I just knew this cannot go ahead. And all the anti-abortionists can say what they want to say, but I saved myself, and I technically saved a child's life from spending a lifetime with a father who potentially abused them. So I didn't go ahead with that. But you're right, it was And I knew, and I've never regretted. I've never been sorry that happened. I knew it was not the right thing to do, because I potentially may have never have left, and I could either be dead or just living just the worst existence right now.
Yeah.
So
you did well. You did well to get away, and you made the right decision.
Get away. But you're right. I mean, it's so many women have children, and you know, so many of those women with children will also be often financially abused at that point as well. They won't have any money, they probably don't work, or they're not allowed to work, or they can't because they've got the kids and stuff like that. And unfortunately, as the person experiencing the violence, you're the one who has to leave.
Yeah.
It's not the perpetrator who leaves. So you're the one who has to leave. And if you've got children of any age, but I'm sure babies are probably the hardest. What are you supposed to do with, you know, but I mean, even school children, how are you supposed to leave when you've got school age children? They have to go to school. They have to, you know, what are you supposed to, and so a lot of them don't. So,
That's right. So if you look back at all these years that you went through that, then your recovery period as well, is there anything that you would do differently if you could?
Looking back at it, I think I would talk about it more. I would, if I could go back and talk to myself after it, I would have said, you know, you need to recognize that this is not normal, and that you're not going to deal with this without someone helping you. You know, for a long time people say to me, well, you know, why don't you go and, you know, see a counselor or a psychologist or something, like talk about it. And I was like, well, what are they going to say? Like, I already know, like in the back of my head, I know the answers to all the things that's going on. Like, I know why I'm feeling it. I know how to make it stop. So I'm not going to do anything about it. I would go back and say, do something about it. Talk to someone about it, because there's no shame in talking about it. And it does help. You know, it does help to, no one's going to have an answer for you. No one's going to fix the problem. No one's going to be able to give you this magic tonic that's going to make it all go away and make it all better. You know, the healing comes from you. You're the only person who can heal yourself. It is your life. It is your body. It is your decision and your choice to do the best with what you've got. But getting help from someone, and it doesn't have to be professional. If you're afraid to talk to professionals, talk to someone that you trust, or that you know that you feel that you can confide in, and just, you know, there's something in the recognition of someone else saying, I understand what you're saying, and I understand what you're feeling, and it is okay to feel that way, and it is okay to experience it, and that it will pass. And again, these are all things that, as I said, I would tell myself, like, I know that it's okay. I know that why I'm feeling this way. I know it'll go away, But as I said, you know, it's taken me more than 10 years to talk to someone properly about what's going on.
It's almost as if when people were saying go and see a counsellor or something, that it felt like they're just going to tell me what to do, and I already know what to do. But that isn't what they ended up doing at all when you did go see them. They weren't kind of, I guess you said shame as well. They weren't shaming you and saying, well, it's your responsibility. Unfortunately, though, the legal system does that. But the helping professions don't do that.
Yeah, no, well, that's right. They're, you know, and I did make sure that I went through, because my other worry was, well, how do I find someone who's actually going to be able to help me? Because there's a lot of people that do. And for myself, and I don't actually even know how I stumbled across it, but I went through victim services actually, and I realised that was a good way, because they have
specialists.
You know, specialists who deal with people who have experienced trauma, and so I knew that straight off the bat. And I'm not, and again, I mean, every person that you meet is not necessarily going to be the right person. I was lucky that the woman that I met, who, you know, that I see, that there was a connection, and I do feel comfortable with her. But I knew that at least to start with, all of these specialists that they had listed under victim services were people who dealt with and would therefore understand what I had gone through and what I was experiencing. And I think I mentioned it before, like I said, you know, I've only started seeing, you know, doing that this year, that I've been talking to someone. And I thought going into it, and I said, because I went through victim services, they wanted to know, you know, to qualify for it, you have to explain what the crime is that you experienced. So I'd said, you know, that I've got, you know, I put in my application, this is what I went through, something like that. And my brain thinking, well, I'm going to be going into these sessions and we're going to be going through what I went through, and I'm going to be talking about what's happened, and we talked about it probably for like a little bit in maybe the first one or two sessions, but that's not what we talk about. We talk about where I'm at now, because it's the accumulation, it's the result of things that I have experienced as to how I'm experiencing my life now. That is where that change can happen. It's recognizing, why am I feeling this way about this or that, or why do I have a response to this and why do I have a response to that, and how can we deal with that now, as opposed to going in there and just going, well, he did this and then he did that and then I felt like this and that happened, because that doesn't help. That was then. That happened. I can't change what happened. What I can change is how I deal with my response to life and to events and experiences now, and do that. So it has become a very useful tool to talk to someone. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is that you can't make someone do something. You can't make an addict stop being an addict. You can't make someone leave a violent relationship. You can't make someone forgive themselves or forgive something. You can't even make you can't even make a toddler listen to you. Like, you can't make someone do something that they don't recognize and want to do for themselves. So, they say, with an alcoholic, the first step is recognition. They need to understand that they do have a problem. Yeah. It's the same thing with someone in a violent relationship. People say, well, why doesn't she just leave? Well, if she doesn't recognize that it's happening, she's not going to be able to take the steps to leave. If you drag her out, chances are she'll go back. And I know that from personal experience. I was dragged out. I went back more than once. Yeah. I wasn't ready. I wasn't recognizing it for what it was. I wasn't seeing it. And it's the same thing, as much as I can say that I'd love to have known things and da-da-da-da-da, I wasn't ready to face it. I wasn't ready to deal with it. I had to go through it myself.
I think too, just
knowing that you can get through it, that there is, like I say now, like, every day that you're out of it is a good day. And you will have bad days. You will come out and you will have really, really, really bad days. And you'll think to yourself, why am I bothering with life? Why am I wasting my time? But if you're not in it, it's already a better day. And it's just one day at a time, and it's going to do this all the time, up and something like that. And then it will start to stay up longer, and then it'll come down and go up and down. Time is the biggest healer. And that's, people think you're just going to walk out and it's just going to be it. They go, okay, well, I'm out, so why is life not better? Because
I also find that a lot of domestic violence perpetrators are fabulous. When they're not being violent, they're actually terrific people, like above average, They're really great to be around. So, which is why people don't spot it and people say things like they're not like that. But that makes it very hard to walk away, because when they're that kind of person, but there are times when they're not, it feels like they're only like that around me. Maybe it is me, maybe he's right. Maybe I am all the terrible things that he says. And quite often, particularly when there's children involved, the perpetrator will be saying things like, you can't do this without me. What are you going to, really undermining any kind of strength that they start getting. So, you walk away, you just feel like if something doesn't go right, he's right. I can't do it. I better go back,
I think you're right. Like, it's very much the voice that you hear for the majority of the time is the voice that will win. So if his voice, and I also, and I carry, like I'm saying here, because I was female in a female-male relationship, but it does happen the other way as well. Women can be equally as abusive as men. But in this situation, if he's always saying to you, this is your fault, you're not worth it, I'm only staying with you because I'm a good person, or whatever they might be saying. It doesn't matter what anyone else says to you. Someone else might say, that's not right, that's not right. And that's not right, it's not right. But if 98% of the time is the voice, is his voice that you hear, that is what sticks with you the most. And so you do, and you go, well, and you're right, like, you'll go out and he'll be, people think he's wonderful, and he'll be charming and pleasant, and everyone's like, oh my God, you guys are so wonderful, he's such a great guy, aren't you lucky to have him, da, 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 and you think, really? But I think, my answer to that, when someone says that, oh, he's only like that when, no. Even if it is you, right? Let's play devil's advocate for a second. Even if it is you, if it's you who is causing his anger, if it is you that is making him lash out and be violent and make life difficult, if it is actually you, all that means is that you're not a compatible couple. Yeah. Right? So let's just say that. Let's take away. Let's say that that if it is your fault, just for argument's sake. Yeah. You're not a compatible couple, and therefore the relationship shouldn't be. Anyway, regardless of whose fault it is, it shouldn't be there. And at that point, you should end the relationship. So whether it's his fault or you think it's your fault, if you're not in a happy relationship, it's not a happy relationship. It's time to go.
Yeah.
Not just, oh, it's only when I do such and such and such. Well, why would you want to be in that? Why would you want to be with someone who, why would you want to be in a relationship that is like that? So that's what I think, when people say things like that. Well, I mean, if you're in a relationship where you're arguing with someone, like when it's not violent, but if you're just unhappy and you argue with your partner, or you just find you're not going down the same path, it's the same sort of thing. It just happens to be on another level. So it's very important that I think people understand that. If you're not happy at home, you probably shouldn't be in it. For whatever reason, you shouldn't be in it. Because, as I said, you're dead a long time.
Yeah.
So why not live the best that you can when you can? Because, I think having been through that, and I am in a loving, committed, very caring relationship. My husband is a wonderful man. And I'm very blessed to have him, and very blessed for where our life is going, and the support and the care that I get from him. But in saying that, if I hadn't met him, I did reach a point where I realised I would rather have been alone and happy and living a life that I was comfortable with, that I was achieving the things I wanted to do, that I felt free and comfortable to be me and okay with being me, than simply being in a relationship, violent or not, but in a relationship that wasn't where I felt, why am I here? Kind of thing. Because what for? And I can say that because, one of the biggest things I've learned from what I went through, and from the process that it took to recover from it, is that we are mortal. Like at the age of 19, young, female, I thought I looked pretty good at the time. I'd been modelling. Boys thought I was pretty special. I was, tall and blonde, all that sort of thing. I thought I was immortal, which as teenagers we often do, and most teenagers do think they're kind of, nothing's gonna bring me down. I've learned to respect my own mortality. I've learned to respect the fact that things can change in an instant. And it's, my husband said to me, like, earlier on in our relationship, he would try to get me to talk about, we talk about serious things, like we go through like our budget and stuff, which I hate talking about money. I really hate it. Okay, drives me absolutely crazy. I hate doing it. But he would say to me, we'd sit down and we'd talk about budget, which is an important thing to do, but I didn't like it. And so he'd be serious. We'd be talking about money, and then I'd throw in, I'd make a face at him, or I'd throw in some sort of silly joke, or I'd start to da-da-da. And he'd say to me, "Why can't you be serious for 5 seconds?" But I would say to him, in all seriousness, pun intended, I've been serious. I've done serious. I don't want to be doing, I can do the adult things, that's not an issue, but I'm going to inject something into it because I've been serious. I was serious for too long. My life was dark for a long time, and I now have the opportunity to choose to not live like that. And so I choose not to. I choose not to be serious and not to be, if I can, and I have down days and I have dark days, and I'll have days where, I'll say to, I don't want to do this anymore and it's all too hard and why am I bothering? And I can cry and have a meltdown, all that sort of thing. But I also then pick myself up again because, I've done that. I've done serious. So, life is about making it fun again.
My last question you've kind of answered, I think, in that one, excuse me, which was how do you maintain staying well now? And I think you're just talking about that. I make sure there's fun. I try and focus on those positive things. I still have bad days, but I know they're going to pass. Is that right? Are there other things that I've missed in there?
Look, that's probably one. To me, that's probably the biggest thing, is that even on, the darkest day, I know that it is a day, and if worst comes, I can turn myself on, off and on again like a computer. I can go to bed and I'll wake up the next day, and it will pass. And I have, I will find even in a bad day, I will still, if I pay attention to it, even in a bad day, I'll still laugh. I'm like, oh, there's still moments in that bad day where something's funny, or, something happens and I'll find it amusing, or something good will happen even though I've had a bad day. And it's recognizing those things as opposed to going, oh, the world
it's
hates
all
me.
bad.
Blah, blah, blah. So that's definitely a big one, is maintain that fun. And I like to do fun things. I like to, as I said, my husband thinks I'm bonkers, but I am. Like, I love, it's fun to do silly things and make life fun. I love to make him laugh because it makes me laugh and that sort of thing. I like to, do the, things that keep me well are, I do the things that I enjoy no matter what anyone else thinks, I have, like stupid things. I mean, like I might have like a favorite show. So my all-time favorite show in the world is MASH.
Right, yeah, loved
Most
it.
people go, are you in, like this? I have watched that show start to finish a cajillion times. I can quote every episode known to mankind.
Wow.
But if I'm in a bad place, I'll go, you know what, I'm going to put MASH on. And I will start and I will binge watch. But I'll watch, that makes me feel good. And, my husband's going, oh my God, you're watching MASH again. Or people say, is that really what? That is what I love. It makes me happy and I'm not ashamed of that. How I say, sometimes I will, there will be times when I'll need to take a step back. If I'm finding things get very overwhelming, which I find a lot running a business. It's been, there'll be times when I'm like, things are really like pushing down on me, whether it's my clients or, money or this or the other. I will sometimes take times and I will go back to some of the spiritual, like use some of the tools that I have used, just to let sort of, center myself, let go, calm down. Try meditation occasionally. I'm not good with meditation because my brain just goes dig, 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 dig. I'm not very good with it. Works for my husband. He does it all the time. Like it works really well for him. I struggle because I get agitated and get going. But those kind of concepts, I do the best I can with them to just center myself a bit more. But I talk about it. I talk about where I'm at. If I'm having doubts or worries, things are getting too much. I'm learning, as I said, I'm learning the difference between safe, vulnerable and unsafe, vulnerable. And I'm in a situation now where I am safe in my vulnerability, whether it be with my husband, whether it be with my friends or with my family if I need to talk to them, or if if it's something that I feel like I can't talk to the people who I know intimately, then as I said, that I have found that speaking to someone else has been really good because I can say, you know what, this is a deep, dark thing that I'm feeling. Can you help me understand it better? And there's no judgment there and I can talk about it. So, and I said, it is a difficult thing. I find it very hard to talk about. I mean, I can talk till the cows come home. Like, this interview, you're probably going to go, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to crop this. I do like to talk. I can talk all day, every day. Like, give me a topic, off I go. Yeah. But when it really comes down to those really kind of those things which kind of hold you back, like, and will stop you from sort of moving forward, I do find that a little bit difficult because those fears come up, those fears of judgment, of ridicule, of embarrassment, of guilt, all those sorts of things come up. And it's been learning to be okay with being vulnerable and say, I'm not perfect right now. I need some help. Can I talk to you about what's going on? And having found people who I know I can talk to about those things is a great tool for me because I can say, you know what, I'm having a really bad day. I just need to talk about something, whether it's something that's going on now or I've had a memory of something that's happened or there's, something like that. So they're probably the things that keep me going.
Yeah.
Chocolate's pretty good.
Yeah. Thank you, Felicity. And I actually think you've been incredibly vulnerable in this interview. Thank you so much for sharing so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Leanne.
All right, let me just review the interview with Felicity and pull out some of those things that are great learnings. Felicity said a couple of things about domestic violence that I think are really helpful to start with. She said that domestic violence relationships don't start as abusive, that you become connected to the person, and she actually described her ex as quite charming, which a lot of women will talk about when they've experienced domestic violence. And that increases the difficulty in leaving because you've made such a close connection. But what happens is over time, there's a testing of boundaries and a breaking down of your defences. And that's how that abusiveness creeps into the relationship. She also explained that this guy, for most cases of domestic violence, he was really hard to shake. He kept coming back. She kept falling back into the trap of going back to him. She had to work very hard to manoeuvre her way out of the relationship. Again, they're really common stories that I hear about with domestic violence. She described some things that she would do differently if she could go back. And the most important thing in that was, she said, to talk more. She found it very difficult when, even though people were telling her to get counselling, she was really struggling with that, feeling like, well, I know what I need to do, I just can't do it. And it was later that she realised that talking through it on its own really helped her get to a place where she was stronger and more able to handle it. She said that there's no shame in talking about it, but whilst she was in it, she felt ashamed and felt she couldn't share it. One other big thing that she said, in hindsight she could see, is the learning that it will pass. If she knew back then that it would pass, there would be a time when she was free of it, it would have made it easier for her to get out of it. So she said there was a lot of things she still does to maintain her coping at the moment. She still has dark days. Even though it's been 10 years since she was in the relationship, there's still difficult times for her. And she said some of the key things she uses to cope with that are laughter. She makes sure she's laughing. She said she watches MASH, but it's just that she's found something like MASH that really helps her feel distracted, feel calm, and just feel some joy. And so that's a really core part of what she kind of her go-to if she's really struggling. She sounded like she did a lot of monitoring herself and where she was at and how she was traveling. She also said that when she notices there's problems, she actually responds to that instead of ignoring it. She now knows that it will pass, so she kind of reminds herself, I'll go to bed tonight and I'll probably be okay when I wake up in the morning. So she knows the feelings will move on. She's also much more able to talk to people about it now, but it took being comfortable with vulnerability for her to be able to do that. She said she's learned there's a difference between safe vulnerability and unsafe vulnerability. And that's what's really helped her to be able to talk when she needs to talk, as well as not feeling like she has to be perfect, that it's okay to have bad days and work through them. And of course, the last thing she said that I think most people would suggest is chocolate as a great way for coping with stressful days. All right, I hope you found the interview with Felicity as enlightening as I did. I thought she was fantastic and so open and willing to share so much of her story. It was amazing. All right, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you again soon.